The protagonist awakens in a nightmarish classroom where he is examined by a horrifying humanoid entity in the shape of a lemon, who is a strict invigilator, testing the protagonist and promising him severe punishment if he fails at the end. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and welcome to ms.lemons. If you have any video or game suggestions, make sure to send them to me on my Twitter or subreddit. Keep in mind that this video will have spoilers, and with that in mind, let's begin. Waking up in a classroom with a surreal talking humanoid lemon welcoming the protagonist to her game, the protagonist starts becoming worried to where he is and what is going on, whether he is asleep or in a surreal realm different than his. Reading instructions for the situation and how to progress in the surreal world where he seems to need to pass as of being a test to progress in afterlife, it becomes clear Ms. Lemons is taking the role of an invigilator, examining the presented individual, the protagonist, whether to be worthy to pass to the next level or not. Ms. Lemons provides the protagonist with a series of problems and questions which need to be solved, problems in the field of geometry, math, and attention span, seeming like a representation of a school. It's been theorized and speculated in many aspects of life, revolving around psyche, dream interpretation, and even possibilities of afterlife, that individuals tend to find themselves in amplified and over-exaggerated versions of their worst fears, where they possibly had bad experiences, or best fantasies where they had good experiences. Schools, for example, are a place where many people don't speak fondly of, with many having had really bad experiences which made them develop some sort of fear or phobia. This could be due to many factors such as bad teachers who would humiliate students, teachers who would make certain students work extremely hard to the point of burning them out, or even other students who would bully and make others have a terrible time at school. This seems to be true for the protagonist who wakes up in a surreal school where he gets examined by a seemingly friendly teacher at first who quickly becomes irritated and impatient, punishing the protagonist in grisly manners with no restraints of the real-life consequences. The protagonist might have had a bad experience at school, finding himself in a nightmare-fueled version of a school, where he is examined non-stop by a scary-looking talking lemon who puts the protagonist under pressure, giving him limited and short time to answer each question. There are times where the protagonist even loses his gained stars at a double rate, losing the stars he gained for answering and solving problems and questions. Not everything is working against the protagonist, however, as he is facilitated with certain items which helps him overcome certain challenges. For example, managing to use the stars he gained, he can purchase the hammer which makes every time-consuming work much faster. The catch, however, is that it's disposable and can be used only once. The blower, on the other hand, blows leaves and paper away, helping the protagonist with solving the problems. The headache pills assist the protagonist get rid of sudden headaches he suffers from in the midst of answering questions, a problem he seemingly suffers from due to being in this situation, or a hurdle the monstrous lemon throws at him to fail at the examination. The cheat sheet, in the other hand, provides the protagonist with useful information to answer the questions.
Oh, hello there, and welcome to my class. It's a place where I test young minds like yours, and try to find out how smart people can actually be, and reward them, if they are worthy. So, let's find out how smart you really are. Let's get started.
The class soon begins with the lemon having a terrifying robotic voice as if being an artificially created entity to torment the protagonist. The lemon welcomes the protagonist to her class, mentioning how she tests young minds like the protagonist, which indicates how the protagonist is not the only person who had the unfortunate fate of facing this entity, with many before him being tormented in a similar fashion. The part where she mentions that she tests young minds could be a hint that the protagonist is a young person, maybe a kid or a teenager. But due to the surreal nature of this world, the protagonist could have very possibly transformed into a younger version of himself, finding himself back in the spotlight of a young student who is put under pressure to answer a series of questions, something he hated and formed a phobia of. This could suggest that the protagonist might be in the afterlife, being tormented for the sins and crimes he committed while being in the real world, especially as in the end we learn how the protagonist can be revived after sustaining fatal injuries and repeat this miserable examination over and over again. While being examined, the protagonist can also use a variety of magical artifacts which assess the protagonist endure longer in the painful test. giving him a fighting chance in the unfair conditions which make the protagonist's vision blurry, covering his sight with random sticky notes and reducing his stars by half if he answers some problems incorrectly. Very soon, however, it's revealed that none of the artifacts and items matter, no matter how many of them the protagonist uses, as they only delay the inevitable, giving the protagonist a false sense of hope and security, as no matter what, he will have to face Ms. Lemons' painful punishment. It seems as if these items are placed there on purpose to make a fool of the protagonist, playing with his psyche and power of hope, proving over and over again that no matter what, he will fail at the end. As the protagonist fails 10 times, the entity's irritation level reaches 10, which makes her transform into a demonic version, mentioning how disappointed she is of the protagonist and how awful he is at school, and answering the never-ending questions, even though everything was specifically designed for him to fail, with so many unfair problems arising, making it impossible for the protagonist to answer correctly.
This is awful. Just terrible. Your results are so horrendous. But I shouldn't blame you for that, right?
No, you should. This human is pathetic. Just worthless. What are you even capable of? Oh, I know. Let's play a game. A very simple one. It's called rock, paper, scissors.
In her demonic shape, Ms. Lemons berates the protagonist, making him relive his worst experiences at school when he was a little kid, being told off again and being stripped of his confidence, when she condescends the protagonist, saying how they will play a simple game now, a game the protagonist would be capable of doing, not like the previous tests, this time being a game of rock, paper, scissors. The entity continues to explain how she will cut the protagonist's hand. If he loses twice, she will take his eye, and if he loses 3 times, she will kick him out of the game forever, where he will spend the rest of his life in an absolute void.
If I win you 1 time, I will cut off your left hand. If I win 2 times in a row, I will also gouge out your eye. And if I win 3 times in a row, I will also kick you out of this game forever. But if you will beat me even once, I will take back all my words and leave you alone. Sounds good? Okay, let's start.
Ms. Lemons, however, whose actual name is revealed to be Lamia, promises that if the protagonist beats her even once, she will take back all her words and leave the protagonist alone, seemingly letting him progress further in the afterlife. No matter what the protagonist does, the protagonist keeps on losing, depicting how the game is rigged and Ms. Lemons knows each answer, making it impossible for the protagonist to ever win, which means he is trapped in this world to suffer as a form of punishment for his deeds in the real world. In classical mythology, Lamia is a female demon who devoured children. Lamia at first in Greek mythology was a child-eating monster, but in later tradition was regarded as a type of nightmare-hunting spirit. Therefore, in summary, it seems the protagonist is an adult who dies at an old age in the real world. Despite his old age, he is reborn as a kid and placed in a nightmarish school where he has to face a terrifying invigilator who examines him and punishes him if he fails, a phobia that he has had in his real life. Due to the situation he is put in, it seems that the protagonist was a sinner who committed heinous acts, making him deserving of such punishments. At the end, he is thrown into the void, missing an arm and an eye, to suffer for eternity. The protagonist can somehow start over again, but it's the same story with a false sense of hope given to him, to fail over and over again and get physically injured just to be thrown into the void again. So with Lamia being a child-eating demon, or a type of night-hunting spirit which devours children or gets into their dreams, it could be interpreted that the protagonist is experiencing this phenomenon both in his dreams or in the afterlife, as it revolves around his psyche and his energy. So keep in mind that this is my own interpretation of the story, and your interpretation and theories could be vastly different than mine. And that's about it for this video. Let me know what are your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, you can stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your host Star, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care.